Okay, so we are starting formally. Thank you everyone for joining. I see that some of the names, at least, that I'm not familiar with. So I hope that some of you have received this information about this session from, some of us that we have shared in social media. Might have spoken with some people or with you directly. Glad to see, yeah, close to 20 people. Of course, some of these people are from our community, but I hope a few of you are from outside and who are benefiting, will be benefited directly. Just a moment, just a minute about the OSCAN group before we go ahead with the session. This is a group of from people from Odisha in India. Odisha is one of the eastern state back in India, and this group is a voluntary initiative to help raise awareness about issues, support some of the social cultural initiative, predominantly focus on people of Odisha who are here in Netherlands and also back home in India. Plus, get to know each other, celebrate our festivals, just take all of us back to our roots whenever it's possible. And as part of this OSCAN initiatives, every year we are trying to come up with activities which will create some value for people of Odisha or otherwise, right? So, for example, this session, even if we are predominantly from Odisha, we are keeping it in English so that it reaches to everyone who is interested for higher studies in Netherlands. First session, this whole session will be divided into two segments. First session is with Sambit. We will talk about PhD and masters in Netherlands. Then we will stop the recording probably in an hour. Then after 5 minutes, we'll go ahead. We'll have a session with Chinmay. We'll talk about MBA in Netherlands for about 45 minutes. So if some of you are interested, do stay on. Or if you think some other people might get benefited from the second session, do let them know who can join the second session. With that, I will let's start with Sambit. Sambit, thank you for joining. I know personally that you are already creating awareness and many YouTube videos in this area about higher studies in Netherlands, specifically focused on masters and PhD. And you have already a successful YouTube channel called Sambit PhD, where I think more than 12,000 people are already part of your subscriber list. So I would request you to take a couple of minutes, introduce yourself, and how have you reached to this point doing PhD in Netherlands? Sambit, over to you.
Thank you, Devadatta Bhai, and thank you, OSCAN community, for organizing this kind of event, which can really benefit students who want to study abroad in the future. So I came to Netherlands in 2015, like almost more than 6 years back. So first I did my master's from 2015 to 17 in TU Delft in computer science. And after I finished my master's, then from 2017, I started my PhD from 2017 September and finished it in Feb 2022. My PhD was majorly focused on educational technology. Broadly, my research was around educational technology in the Open University of the Netherlands. And there we also worked with different partners, like from TU Delft, from Goethe University Frankfurt, also some Belgian universities, because PhD that you do here is like a job. So you get to work with different universities or different industrial partners, and it's ideally like 4 years period. And because of COVID, my PhD was kind of delayed, so it took slightly more, that's like 4 years 6 months for me to finish my PhD. Yeah, so that's, I think, the brief academic introduction for me.
Thank you, Sambit. And I know that only few days back you formally completed your PhD and you defended it. So congrats on that. But just
Thank
to
you.
start from the beginning, so
Yeah,
how do someone from back in India or Odisha who are interested, how do someone start their research, like in terms of what are the universities? How do someone initiate the process, whether it's master's or PhD? What is the starting point?
So I think here we'll discuss about Netherlands, like first discuss about masters in Netherlands, then we can go to the PhD. So
Okay,
yeah. So basically, I mean, obviously you have Google, but there is a specific website called studyinholland.nl, which kind of gives you an idea about the scholarships and the universities that offer certain scholarships, be it centrally like Dutch scholarships or university specific scholarships. So maybe you can find it somewhere, we'll put it here. So studyinholland.nl is very useful for that. And apart from that, there are like 14, so speaking about Netherlands, there are 14 main universities here, which come under a single umbrella called VSNU. So if you go through these 14 universities in Google, if you just type VSNU, you will find all these 14 universities which offer these kind of programs. And out of them, 4 universities are called technical universities, which are similar to IITs in India in terms of the quality and what an employer looks for, or if you are going to do anything else after that. So among the 4 TUs, the famous ones, the 4 TUs are TU Delft, TU Eindhoven, Twente University in Enschede, and the 4th one is Wageningen University. And Wageningen University is really, it's not more technical, but it has more programs related to agriculture because it's ranked #1 in the world in agriculture. And if you are looking for really something related to computer science or some IT field, then I guess the other 3 TUs will be useful for that: TU Delft, TU Eindhoven, and Twente. But apart from that, there are many other 10 other universities which consist of the 14, like University of Amsterdam, University of Utrecht. So you have to go through individual university websites, and normally an application, suppose I want to join in 2023 fall, like in September, then ideally 11 months before or 1 year before the applications open. So you have to apply in that period of, say, like for example, September to December or September to November, if you want to be eligible for both scholarships and also admission, because deadlines are normally till March, but it's better to apply before December in most universities. And you have to go through each university. Everything is digital, but you have to go through, there's no universal portal, so you have to go through individual university because they have certain criteria, like whether they require a SOP or a recommendation letter, and your grades, and there are many other criteria, like simple criteria that you come across any university when you apply for masters. So yeah, I guess that would be the step, like follow studyinholland.nl, Google, and also go through individual universities to start your research about where you want to apply and what you want to apply in which time frame.
And this is about masters. Is there anything someone needs to do differently in terms of PhD?
Yeah. So for PhD, there is something called academic transfer. It is a aggregator. So whenever there is any PhD opening, you will always find it on academictransfer.com, and academictransfer.com has all PhD and research related job opportunities that you can find in entire Netherlands. So you have the option in academic transfer to also create a subscription plan. If you want to be notified regularly whenever there is a vacancy, you can put your email and you get a notification. So PhDs are not like US, where you are a student and you apply in a certain time frame, either spring or fall. But here, because PhD is a job, So you get vacancies all around the year. Whenever there's a funding with that university or that professor, then they open some vacancies. It can be in any month of the year. So you have to regularly check through academic transfer by specifying your keywords and also the position that you are looking for, which is PhD. So academic transfer has everything. That is a good thing, that there's a universal website for finding PhDs.
That's great. I think what we will also do while posting this recording in social media platforms, we will also attach these links. I will align with you to get these links.
Yeah.
And we will attach
and maybe also add it in the description of the video. If someone goes to the video, then
yes,
they can click on the link and use.
Yeah, we will do that. But yeah, so that is about, let's say, to start the research, to get to know the universities and the PhD positions which are in offer. But what can someone expect in terms of education in India and a master's or PhD back in India compared to here? What is what, based on your experience, what are the key difference?
Yeah. So so I did my bachelor's for 4 years in VSSUT Bulla from Odisha, India. And when I came for the master's, I think it took me like 4 to 6 months initially to get used to the difference in the way they teach and the way you do prepare for exams and everything. So I found some major things that I will highlight is I found that the teaching here is especially more practical and experiential learning. So they expect you, like suppose most of these subjects will have lab work and also group assignments. So they expect you to really do what you learn as in the theory and make mistakes and then again learn again from that. So they don't really create that comfort zone where you are always stuck and you think like I need to do everything perfect. So the major difference was that, like in India, I especially where I did my bachelor's, we did not have that much exposure to the practical work, which was quite different here. And also here they focused a lot on group assignments or group projects. So it's not that always you have an end exam which just evaluates how you performed in that subject, but sometimes they have like maybe 10% or maybe no exams. There are many courses that I did in masters which had no exams, but the evaluation criteria was based on, say, like daily assignments or weekly assignments, group projects. And this group project thing I feel is very useful when you come across different nationalities, different thought, people with different thought process, and you get to know really, it's not like someone is right or wrong, but more like get to knowing different perspectives. So that helps a lot when you are later, when you go for maybe further research or companies or something. So these kind of things helped a lot. And regarding teaching, I would say in my computer science student experience, they did not have really, so books were mostly for reference. They never used books as the core material for teaching. They used, like, say, last 10 to 15 years of research publications for designing their slides to teach you. And so you just get to know that latest research or latest applied work in that field, and then you can go back to the books for just as a reference, not as the core material. So that helped a lot in the sense that the material what was taught to us was quite updated because they followed the latest publications to design their courses. So this happens every year, like they update it regularly and they don't follow on a specific book which has been written maybe 10 years back or 20 years back. So I feel these are like the major differences. So it's more like, to sum up, I would say it's not difficult, which many people claim and also tell their juniors, but it's kind of different style, which with time, I think you will get used to it. If I can get used to it, then why can't you?
So what you said, there is no predefined course or syllabus. Every year it changes, correct?
Yeah, every year they change the course browser, the course syllabus. Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you, Sambit. Few people I see that they're still joining. Just for them, we are talking about masters and PhD in Netherlands. Sambit has just spoke about different universities and what is the major difference in terms of education in India and Netherlands. So these are the 2 points we have covered. If you have joined late, you can always refer back to this recording when we will share in our social media platforms. But Sambit, moving ahead, you talked about how to find universities and what are the websites, programs. But will you add more about, let's say, shortlisting criteria and things like that?
Yeah, so I will. So let's divide that into 2 parts, because shortlisting universities for masters is completely different than shortlisting for PhD.
Yeah.
So first I'll talk about masters. So on this topic also, I have made a video on my channel. You can always go back to that. We'll put it in the description. But now I'll tell you.
We will link your channel when we share this, your YouTube, let's say, handle. We'll link it.
Wait, let me see what I say.
You're talking about additional, let's say, shortlisting criteria for masters.
For masters, shortlisting for masters. So so I mean, for me, the primary things are like, first I see like whenever I apply for, I'm giving a broader reply because you might be also looking for different other universities. So first I see the climate and the weather. For me, climate and the weather are very important. When I apply for a location, I see what is will I be able to survive, and also talk with different people, maybe seniors or people who have already passed out from that place. And after that, I look at the rankings. Like, there are many ranking agencies like Times Higher Education, QS rankings, many different rankings. And the third point I would say is, like, after I see the rankings, suppose I have 10 or 20 universities, then I go through their course browser or the programs or the tracks and find if there is something which is really interesting for me or matches to my profile. Like if I apply for computer science, suppose I'm interested in, in our time, there are 2 tracks in computer science in TU Delft, data science and software technology. So then you decide like, okay, in those tracks, do they have sufficient like courses which are interesting for you, or because you will do a thesis. So that also you need to keep in mind, like when you come to do masters here, even if you work after doing masters in a company, you still need to do a thesis, which can be like 6 to 9 months. In our time, it was 9 months, which was 45 ECTS. It can be also as low as 30 ECTS, which is like 6 months. So that aspect also you need to consider when you're applying for any university, like whether you have something in mind, like say 2 to 3 groups with whom you will be doing the thesis, or you don't find any compatibility, then maybe like say I shortlist Eindhoven and TU Delft, and then I see in Eindhoven I find 2 groups more compatible for me if I do a future thesis with them, then maybe you choose that university over the other university. But if you are targeting specifically Netherlands, I would say first look for the TUs. If you find something interesting, because TUs are really good, TU Eindhoven, Delft in 20, and Wageningen in some courses. And then look for the other universities like Utrecht University, Leiden University, University of Amsterdam, Erasmus Rotterdam, many other universities. So yeah, so we talked about weather, the location, this, and I think the 4th or 5th point, I don't remember the number, will be to talk with alumni, like the word of mouth, like what they actually really experience and what, because you don't find everything in blogs and websites, and sometimes it's also the, like if you talk to 10 people for a specific university, you hear 10 different opinions, and then it helps you to also give a decide very in an all-rounded manner, like what are the pros and cons. So obviously you can change the ordering. This is my personal preference of ordering that I'm mentioning now. I think that, and the last point I would say, which I missed, is the cost, because that became a deciding factor for me when I also got admitted from US universities, but I came here in Europe. So cost was also a primary factor apart from rankings and all these reputation and courses. So thing is, like, it may be like, you never know, like specifically Netherlands, I would say scholarships are very limited. So for masters, so if you, I mean, majority of them don't get scholarship. So if you don't get scholarship, then also you need to figure out like what will be your ROI, like whether the return on investment, will it be useful? Like if I start immediately working or doing a PhD, or should I look for some other universities and then later move to this country or that country? So cost is very important, like depending on the scholarship and your financial background.
People here would be with a visa perspective, right? So I might be, I don't have any idea on that, because let's say somebody is working with a HSM, or somebody is working with one of the company in some ICT visa, which is specific to the company. Now, if the person wants to have a higher status, let's say the PhD, the master, so what is the visa requirement, or does it even, I mean, it's not relevant in this context at all?
So the thing is, like, if you suppose you said like you are already working here,
Correct,
then
yeah.
When you are working here, you have a work permit, like the residence card says that you have a work permit. And if you suppose start studying 100% of the time, then you will have a student, it will be converted to a student permit. Like the residence card that you'll have will be different with different rights. And if you start a PhD, then I think it will remain the same, but maybe the title might change, like there are different types of work permits. So but these things are taken care of mostly by the university. Like suppose you get a PhD, just like most of the employer sponsor visa, like that the university is concerned with it. So if they give you admit, they arrange everything for you, and you just take the appointment and get the visa, be it a student, or in case of PhD, you sign the employment contract and then you get that. So I think that's the thing, like visa.
Yeah, that
should not be a problem, I don't think, because it will be mostly done by universities in consent with you.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Sambit.
And Sambit, the points that you said, different points, is it also valid for PhD, or you want to add something?
So PhD, I will say, because I'm seeing it from the perspective of you are getting a monthly salary, you also get employer welfare benefits, bonus, everything. They also give you family welfare benefits when a PhD is with a family, and suppose your spouse or your partner is not earning and is on a dependent visa, and so there are also other things that adds to the salary. So because you get a salary, so I won't talk the finance part, but in PhD, one major thing which I've seen regularly is that people run after rankings. I would say when you choose a PhD, focus a lot on the team with which you are going to work with. So say the professor or the postdocs, the PhDs who is working with that professor, how reputed he is, what is his, what kind of projects he has worked with, what is his citation metric. There are different metrics that you see in research. So it is better to see that person, that individual, and also that team that he has been working with, and also talk with maybe say some PhDs and postdoc to know how is the relationship with the professor, how is his nature, how good he is in managing everything, and these kind of things. So instead of focusing more on the university, focus on that particular position. And sometimes some PhDs also have like a I mean, you get a salary from the university, but your PhD is like 50% work in the university and 50% work in a industry. Like one of my friend in TU Delft, he's now in material science in final year. Half of the time he works with Tata in the northeast. I forgot the name of the place. There's a Tata center there. And half of the time is with TU Delft, but he gets the salary from TU Delft. So in those kind of PhDs, when you are applying, you already see like how it is funded. So in that case, you can also look for your preference, like, okay, I want to switch to non-academic or a R&D sector after my PhD. I don't want to continue in academia. Then maybe you can prefer such type of PhDs. Instead of seeing the ranking, just see, okay, this is a very reputed company, very reputed group. They have done really great project in the last decade. So let's go with them. So from that angle, the PhD will be different, and the rest of the things I think will apply, except the cost.
But in that sense, would you want to touch upon some of the, let's say, fees or cost regarding the masters?
I think I did not check the fees. I think I checked last year, and it was around 19,000 something, 18,500 or 19,000 euro only tuition fees per year in any 2-year master's program that they have here. That was only tuition fees. And living expense, I think I have talked about that in many of the videos. The major thing that increases every year is the rent. Like the food, obviously it increases, not that much, but the rent increases a lot. And I think now on an average, you can say, unless you are living in Amsterdam, you can say like maybe like, I don't know, like 800 or maybe 850 as a student, you can manage, including insurance and everything. So it will be something like, if you say 8,000, 9,000, it will be like 10,000 euro per year for the living expense, and 19,000. I think maybe it is more also now, the tuition fee, but it will be somewhere in the range of 19,000 euro. So it's very expensive. Like if you convert to INR now, I think around 84 it is. So 29,000 you can say, like per year for masters. So yeah, it's not cheap unless you get a scholarship, which is also limited. My experience is like there are different type of scholarships. So some scholarship give you full scholarship, which are very few, like out of 2,000 students, 2 or 3 will get. And there are some partial scholarships like 5,000 euro, or just giving your living expense for a year. So yeah, there are different options that you can finance yourself. And one thing I also forgot to add, I mentioned that in the videos also many times, is that in the second year when you do a thesis, so I see a question that someone is saying, what is the course fee apart from tuition? So actually tuition fee means like it includes everything, all expenses for your study, like for that year. Not, I mean, I'm not including obviously books and printout and all that you can find in the library. And nowadays many people are reading ebooks. So in second year you can finance yourself if you do an industrial thesis. So there is an option here that in the second year you are free to go for an industrial thesis when you do the thesis, which is compulsory. And if you do an industrial thesis, you also get paid every month, which can range between 600 to 900 euros depending on where you work. So that will be kind of sufficient for those 6 or 9 months for a living expense, but not everything else. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. I think someone is also asking about percentages, marks. So in that sense, maybe we can, if you can touch upon some of the admission criteria and how, let's say, prior scores in different stages of our career makes a difference in this case.
Sambit, sorry, before jumping to the percentage criteria on the finance part, one question I have. What is the loan thing? Is that education loan? I understand that Netherlands also gives education loan. So is that something you have some?
So I don't know, like, I mean, that comes, I think, from, I mean, whatever I have covered or I have seen is mostly people directly coming from India. So people, suppose like you have stayed here or someone has stayed here for a long time, I think they can, as you said, like they can apply for loan here. So that part I have no idea, like how it is done, like how the loan system, who is already a resident here for a long time, how that works. But only thing I've heard from Dutch people is that the education loan here is very cheap in terms of the interest rate, which is around 1% or 2%, not like India. But I have no idea how it is done, like the process.
Okay. Yeah, I heard you can apply through DO.
Yeah, through Duo study financing. Yeah.
But that is applicable for people who are already here, right? So for
Yeah.
if a student who is coming from India or planning from India to come and
No,
study
you
here,
cannot.
you cannot.
But even if you are here, but I'm not sure if you are not, citizen or something, do you still get that 1%?
That I'm not sure. Like if you
I'm
need
asking,
to be a
I'm
resident
asking to
or a
Patru Bhai and
citizen.
others. I'm asking Patru Bhai and others, like, whether
Oh, okay, sorry.
you really get that kind of discounted price, right? Because if you're not a citizen, if you are going for a personal loan or something, you have to end up paying almost 5 to 7%, depending on what bank. So I don't know. The same thing applies unless you are a citizen, right? Because I was trying to get also a personal loan, saying, oh yeah, you will have to pay almost 6 to 7%.
No, I heard, Sushant, if you have already stayed here for 5 years, then you can apply. Nothing to do with citizens.
Okay.
Thank you. Sambit, coming back to the point about your prior career and how does it impact applying for application here in terms of master's or PhD? If you can touch upon that and overall admission criteria.
Yeah, so I will talk about the masters. So suppose you have done your bachelor's in India and then you're applying for masters here. I have talked with the admission department because I was studying there and we did CV checks, and I talked with them regarding how they select people. And also they have mentioned that on the website. I only know about TU Eindhoven and TU Delft, and I guess it generally applies to all Dutch universities. So they don't have a very strict demanding, even though they are ranked very well, the TUs, they don't have a strict criteria in terms of the CGPA. So most Dutch universities, when I was applying, they had listed there that you need to have a first division in your bachelor's when you apply by that period, which is like 6 CGPA. And after that, apart from that, they see specific grades in specific subjects. So suppose I'm applying for computer science, apart from greater than equal to 6, which is like a cutoff, they also see those 5 or 6 subjects in my transcript, which really applies to computer science. Because I mentor people also through my YouTube channel. So there I know people. There was a guy who was from NIT Trichy, and he had a CGPA of 8, but his subject specific grades were like 6 point something. And at the end, he got rejected. So the thing is, like, they put more emphasis on the subject specific grades apart from the whole CGPA. So, and I think now it is 6 or 7, I don't remember. It will be listed in the university website when you apply, like what are the criteria for, but I think it is around 6 or 7. And to sum up, I would say getting an admit here, if you type on Google also, you will see that acceptance rate is around 70%. So even though these universities are reputed, you can get an admit here quite easily as compared to a very good university of this rank in US. But then surviving here, like the education system that is here that I told you, like you have group assignment, projects and everything, that is very demanding. So I think getting used to that will take some time. That will be more difficult in terms of finishing your master's on time also, because I know many friends who could not finish within 2 years period because they have a strict quality check. Also, apart from passing the courses, finishing the courses, you also need to finish the thesis in a certain benchmark. They have a certain benchmark which you need to really fulfill, before which they can give you a green light so that you can proceed with defending your thesis. So yeah, so that would be the highlight. Like, getting in is easy, but then surviving here needs your effort to survive here. Yeah. And one more thing I want to add is that they have a rolling admit. So suppose the deadline is till March, they don't wait for other applicants, say 200 applicants, to compare your application. Rather, they just, suppose I apply in December or November, they will immediately evaluate it against their benchmark criteria or cutoff they have. And if you cross that, everything is okay, they immediately give you admit. Sometimes you also get to hear, if you apply early, you get to hear in 2 weeks also. In my time, I remember in 2014, I applied in December, and in 10 days I got an admit. So it's really fast and it's a rolling admit. So better to apply early.
Thank you, Sambit. I think some of the very relevant questions are coming in, but we will address these questions in a couple of minutes. So I just want to ask you, what would be any other key points to focus on in terms of, while applying for admission?
Yeah, so I mean, my experience is that apart from the subject specific GPA and cutoff above GPA, you don't need to really have certain level of work experience. Any kind of internship is always good on your CV, but it's not that primary or that important for them to give you admit. So that is not really a strict criteria when they give you a master's admit. And apart from that, I think the motivation letter that you write, which you might call statement of purpose or motivation letter, that is very important in terms of like making or breaking a whole application, like how you make the whole story, like what was your beginning and what is your experience, how you can contribute here. So the motivation letter is very important apart from all these aspects. I think that is the main thing which ties everything together.
Right, and that is why, like you said, you are already mentoring some of the people, and that is why finding a mentor, probably talking to people who have already done these kind of courses here, and maybe asking for help makes sense, right? For people who are already planning that.
Yeah, also for motivation letter, I would say, like, if you try to write it like 3 months, 6 months before, then what happens is, like, suppose you ask someone, like you make a first draft, and then you ask someone who has already done that, gone through that process, then you get to show it to different eyes, and then you get a lot of feedback, and you enhance it further, have 3-4 versions or maybe 6 versions, and then it's very easy later when you are applying, it's already fine-tuned. So that will be very helpful if you start planning very early.
Yeah, we will, just to let others know, we will have more such rolling sessions with Sambit and others to address education here, higher education. So this is not just one session that we are stopping. We'll have more sessions going forward. At this point, we will stop. Let's say discussion. We'll look at the questions.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
we'll
I have a
forward.
question. Maybe I can ask Sambit. Sambit, when you choose Netherlands, didn't you compare with any other European countries like Germany, Italy, Czech Republic? Because I heard that the cost of education is very cheap there. I mean, in Germany, I have my juniors, they are doing it. So I think it is within 5,000. Your education expense will be 5,000 euros per year, and you can cover that. It's pretty cheap compared to Netherlands, 25% almost. So when you choose Netherlands, I mean, do you choose because Netherlands is very good in terms of English? You don't have to depend on the Dutch language here, or how is the criteria?
Yeah, so that's a very good point. This also many people ask this. So Germany, the 99% of the universities education is free in Germany, and you only pay the living expense, which you said, like somewhere around 5,000 euros.
Yeah,
and living
correct.
expense also cheaper in Germany as compared to Netherlands. So the main problem in Germany is that you need to have, when you are studying there, obviously you can have an English program. There are many English master's program, but when you're applying for jobs, many companies ask for a German CV, or you need to have certain level of German to get into that company, even if you give an English CV. Most of that cases happen like that. And so for that, what people do, what I know from my personal acquaintances is that they finished A1. I think mostly they finished A2, and later after coming to Germany, they do till B2. So if anyone has problem with finances, then I guess you need to plan really early, like 1 or 2 years before, so that you have a basic German language before you go to Germany, so that your life becomes easier later while applying for jobs and everything. So that is the only primary obstacle, but obviously it is very good in terms of finance. And yeah, I also agree the same point. Like, I mean, I did not apply to any German universities because I did not plan early for Germany and I didn't have any German level. So I only applied for Netherlands, Canada, US, and I think here
Why
language
not?
is not an issue. That's true.
I mean, yeah, here language is not issue. That these people speak very good English. Also, England is there. I mean, England is by default everything is in English. So how you compare this with English or England universities?
I don't know about scholarships, but when I looked at good universities like say Imperial or any university, they are very expensive in terms of they give only 1 year program. Like if you see the masters in UK is like very intensive. What you learn in 2 years here, you get the same credits, but you finish it in 1 year. And so it's very intensive. And whatever universities I looked for very passively, I did not do active search in London, I mean UK. So I found them more expensive than what it was in Europe at that time. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I can genuinely compare, but these are my reasons why.
Yeah. Very clear, very clear. Thank you.
But you came somewhere around 2015, right? So it's already 6-7 years, and the cost of living and everything in Netherlands.
And one thing I want to add is that in my time, you have to also look at the situation perspective. In my time, the euro, 1 year before me, one of my senior came, and at that time, the euro was 80 something. And then when I came, because of some oil fluctuation, the euro fell to 66. So the first year fees that I paid, the tuition fees were already low and the conversion was 66. So that helped also to reducing the cost. And second year also it was around 70 something. And then when I started earning in my PhD, it went again to 85. So I mean 80 to 85. So yeah, it was just a coincidence that also helped. So
yeah. Sambit, quickly we'll go through the comment section just to look at the questions. There was one question. I'm just going from the beginning towards the end. So what is the annual cost approximately in euro, and what is the selection criteria? I think you already talked about that. We can move ahead. Course fee apart from tuition fee, you spoke about it. Is there any percentage? I presume that this is someone who asked this question is talking about your school or college marks. You spoke about it. So in summary, for masters, it's 2.5k euro per month. 30K
yeah, if you see on the higher end, I think extremely higher end, like the worst, I mean the extreme that we can pay, it's true, like it will be around 29-30k per year. And then you have to see if you can deduct something in industrial thesis, but obviously if you don't get a scholarship, you just assume that you will get industrial thesis and you will survive those 6-9 months, but you never know from the first year whether you will get it or not.
Right. There is a good question from Keshav is about post-study work opportunities. I think on this topic we can have more details on a future session with you, but if you want to touch upon this.
So
now.
I don't know. I mean, if you type on YouTube like loan space Sambit PhD, then you will find in top a video where I showed a calculator in 6 to 7 minutes and explained based on my PhD salary, how much years it will take me depending on my expenses for study and how much time it takes, what is the ROI. So if you check that video, I think you'll have a fair amount of idea like how much time. And in short, I can tell you it will take like maybe 3 years with a PhD salary, because PhD salary is low, much lower than what you get if you work in a industrial job. So if in that you can finish in 3 years, then I think 3 to 4 years will be, I mean, is more than enough to fulfill that.
On that question, Keshav was asking, is it possible to save enough to pay back the loan? I heard that the tax rates are also pretty high. I think that's true, but what is your sense? What is your sense in terms of someone who studies here and of chances of getting a job?
So Yeah, chances of getting a job, I mean, I can just, I mean, there is no specific website. I can just tell on experience is that most of my friends, I think the max was like 9 or 10 months. People applied for also the orientation year visa. Here you have the option, if you don't get a job immediately after study, you can apply for orientation year visa or search year visa to search for a job. And most of them got within 10 months. So the least, the people that they needed to wait the most was like 10 months. And some got before, which are very few. Some got after, but most was 10 months. But the thing is, like, if you do from a, I mean, if you do from any university, you'll get, but if you do from a TU, then the chances of getting very fast is also more as compared to doing in a normal university. But all the 14 universities are as good as.
When you say TU, it's a technical university, right?
Technical university, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, moving ahead, Patravai is asking, is there a possibility of masters or PhD part-time?
So regarding masters, it is like, I mean, everything is possible here. There is no rigidity. There's a lot of flexibility. I have made an interview also with one of the, I also post some interview videos on my channel. So there is a guy called Nadi. If you type on YouTube Nadi space Sambit PhD, you'll find that video. So he did a part-time PhD. He was like a teacher in some applied science university, and he was doing PhD 2 days a week, which was like 16 hours a week, and everything is possible. So the thing is, like, for that kind of a PhD, maybe you will not find it in a traditional academic transfer search, like the 50% contract or 20% contract, but you can always approach or email professors that you find are related to your field. And sometimes maybe you don't get reply always, but you will get a reply sometimes, and then you can go ahead with them, talk about them, and if at all they're interested, later when they open a vacancy, they can always change the contract like that and accommodate you. So it is possible to do a part-time PhD. And part-time masters, I don't have much experience. It is possible, but then you have to see like how the fees are structured and these kind of things, because I know some Dutch people, they finish masters in 4 years and start working during masters. So I think it is possible, but you have to see like what is the approach.
Yeah. I'm just going through the chat. We took, I think, more or less all the questions. Deepak is saying that please share the YouTube links that you mentioned. We will do that when we will post this conversation in social media. We will also add some of the YouTube links that Sambit you mentioned from your channel. I will ask the audience if there are any other questions. We have 2-3 minutes with Sambit more, if there are any other questions. But Sambit, would you just touch upon the language part about Dutch language here and how easy or difficult it is to cope with during your studies?
I mean, studies, it is, I think you don't need any Dutch in studies. It's not an issue. Like, even if you work with the international team, I mean, we had some group projects. There will be, say, 2 Dutch people, 2 persons from Italy, Greece. So it's already a fairly international environment when you go to the TUs, technical universities, or any university. And Dutch people are very comfortable in speaking English. So language is not an issue anywhere in any university, especially in academia. It's not an issue at all.
Yeah, if there are any
that is
other
I would like to add on that. That is maybe because it's from TU, technical universities. But if it is other subject, like I know people are doing some students are doing here in the humanity subject, and in that case, I think they have to learn Dutch as soon as possible for better communication.
Okay.
Yeah. Do we have any other questions?
Hi, Sambit.
Yes.
We should have to know Dutch language for part-time job or full-time job.
It depends like what kind of work you're doing. Like I mean, I know people, especially for part-time jobs, people who work in Thaus Bissau, like a food delivery service. even House Wizard is a Dutch app, but you don't need Dutch language to work there because you just carry some packages in your bike or the vehicle and deliver. Also, people who work in Albert Heijn, especially part-time jobs, you just are assigned in certain location where you don't need to speak at all. So if you are like the cashier, then obviously you will need to interact. So it depends on how much human to human interaction you need in that specific job. So I think that kind of job only asks for Dutch language. Even for PhDs also, you will find in the description, sometimes, not always, like 10 to 20% I've seen, they mention that we expect at least to have a basic Dutch understanding because you will be dealing with some project partners where they need to speak Dutch, or maybe the data set that you're analyzing has certain Dutch words or something like that. So it really depends on that specific case, but I have seen that is not that much as whatever I've seen in my surrounding.
Thank you, Sambit. Albert Heijn is a big retail chain here, supermarket. So.
Supermarket, yeah.
Okay, I think Sambit, thank you so much. I think for this session we can stop here. We will, of course,
Maybe
we
Deepak, can we arrange a session for the bachelors? Because I know some students are doing bachelors in Netherlands. Now this session is for masters. So
yes, Niranjan bhai. Yes, we will. Thank you. We will plan. We will speak with you, and we will of course plan on that.
with me.
If you have any specific questions, but we will definitely plan on that. So
Yeah, no
usually
problem.
what we saw is mostly people are coming for either job or PhD or masters, but bachelor's is also something we will look at. Initially, we just started with this, keeping in mind the larger audience here.
Yeah, no problem. I can help on that because yeah, I know someone who is doing bachelor's here, so from India.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sambit. We will have more sessions with you, but we can stop here at this point. I will speak with you about, let's say, putting up all the links that we talked about, the website links and other information.
Thank you, Sambit. It was nice session actually. Thank you.
Indeed, nice. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Bye.